Immerse in the profound wisdom of the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, ancient verses, revered as a pinnacle of devotion and spiritual awareness. Under the guidance of His Holiness Swami Jyotirmayananda, plunge into the infinite ocean of this revered scripture. Discover its hidden truths. Embrace its transformative power. Awaken to new realms of divine love and spiritual awareness. The depths are calling. The deeper you dive, the more treasures you'll discover. And now, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, bestower of immortality. And blessed self in each of you, adoration. Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. Profound insight is being given in God realization. What happens? Can the soul attain God realization? Soul is, Jiva or individual soul is so limited. God is beyond limits of your mind, beyond imagination. How can a little sparrow become a big planet? But this point has been explained before, because when you look at a drop of water shining on a leaf, from the point of view of the drop, it's extremely insignificant. But what is shining in it, never underestimate, because it is the reflection of the sun. So the reality of the shine is the sun. Similarly, through your nervous system, what is shining is just a little dewdrop type, a gleam, a ray of God. But if you allow your mind to explore, develop devotion, then you shed all your limitations and become one with God. This point is constantly emphasized in Vedanta. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I am that am I. In the 32 sutras, some of these sutras I will be moving fast. Vaishamyat asiddhamiti chet na abhigyanavat avaishyat. If it be said that this cannot be proven because of the contradictory nature of God and Jiva, individual soul, we say no, there being no contradiction, as in the case of recognition. A few years back, you saw your friend somewhere in New York, and he was wrapped up with many clothes, he was cold. And later, you see the same person in Miami, but now he is appearing totally different. All his clothing are different, his haircut is different. But when you see, you say, oh, the same one. I saw you there, you are the same. Same way, realization of God is similar. God, with all his majesty, controller of Maya, soul with all its limitations, you are driven by karma, overpowered by ignorance and many things. But all your limitations are your clothings. If you throw them off, God doesn't have to throw off his. The moment you throw off, you find yourself one with God. na klishtaha para syatanantaram visheshat. The Supreme Being is not subject to afflictions on account of the special state of the soul subsequent to the realization of identity. Simple way, what it means that when you attain God realization, the soul is stripped of kleshas, afflictions. That's the identity of the individual soul. You are stripped of your identity. That the same does not apply in relation to God. God is not stripped of his identity relating to God's power, God's maya. And when we say kleshas, afflictions, we are referring to 5 points. Ignorance, avidya, that's the source of all miseries. Due to ignorance, there develops an erroneous notion of I am. The I in you is not real. It is an illusory notion caused by ignorance. Therefore, you are never sure what is your I. When you walk around, your body is your I. When you start eating, your body doesn't count. Tongue and the process of eating becomes important. When you are thinking, the body and tongue and all that doesn't count. Mind counts. So you are constantly shifting the I identity, body, pranas, mind, intellect, ego. When you are in deep sleep, you don't have all the normal sense of I. And so, as I was explaining the kleshas, ignorance, egoism, led by ego awareness, your mind moves two ways, love and hate. Movement towards love is called attachment, raga. To hate, dvesha, aversion. As long as mind goes on swinging, it goes on creating karmas. So deep within, your ego is looking for certain stability. But this world of stability is based upon a mind that is defective. So there are times when you like an object and you build up a lot of raga. But there are times when you begin to develop a hatred. And therefore life becomes a struggle. One hand you want to get it, another hand you want to pull it away. I'm giving you just quick dramatization. The mind is constantly like a pendulum. This pendulum acts as a function of mind, creates karmas. And karma leads you to embodiment. You are identified with the physical body and all its realities. Body, place where you are, how you are related to your parents and society and you world of your time, and all that comes in. And therefore there is abhinivesha klesha. Abhinivesha klesha, the fear of death. So 5 are important points. Abhinivesh, fear of death or clinging to life. To the mind, life means to be as you are on this earth planet and never go away. Go on living. And the idea that one day you will lose it haunts your mind. Subtle fear continues in an instinctive way. So, ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, fear of death. These 5, they are called kleshas. If you attain God realization, you shed these out of yourself. If it be said that Now, referring in 34th, Aishwaryam tateti chet na swabhavyat. If it be said that same argument may be applied with reference to Brahman or God, that is, just as the jiva, soul, sheds the kleshas, God also may shed all the Aishwaryas. Aishwaryas are divine attributes, general Aishwaryas that are well explained in the scriptures. Dharma, God is the embodiment of infinite virtue. Aishwarya, God is the embodiment of infinite control over the entire universe. Jnana, infinite wisdom. Bala, infinite power. Vairagya, infinite detachment. Shri, infinite prosperity. Prosperity in a very broad sense. These are 6 great attributes. They are called bhagas. And therefore, Lord is known as Bhagavan. He is endowed with these 6 attributes in infinite measure. So while Jiva has to shed the attributes, this individual soul has to shed the attributes that keep it limited, God doesn't have to shed them. Why? I will explain. Sarvanrite kimiti chet na evam buddhyanantyar. If you say that when all souls attain liberation, what will happen to the powers of God? If the argument is that all souls, God is merciful, and all souls have to attain liberation. Suppose there comes a time when all souls have attained liberation, and God doesn't have to use his powers. He can shed them. The answer is that the souls are in the category of infinite number. Just as you cannot count the reflected suns, you can use the same argument that one day there will be no reflection of the sun. For that, you'll have to count all the possibilities of how many jars and how much water can be contained, and you have to evaluate or estimate all the oceans. It will take you a long time. It's a big mathematics. Trillion multiplied by trillion, and many more times. And yet, this is not precise mathematics, because when you are talking about the world is projection of Maya. An illusion cannot be counted. You can be very clever, but you can't estimate how much water is there in the mirage. How many snakes can be superimposed upon a rope? Therefore, souls are not within a counted estimate. So even though millions of souls may attain liberation, there will be millions, trillions left. So never worry about it. The people have been worried about what will happen if all souls attain liberation. What will happen to the world? The Earth planet will not be needed anymore. Don't worry about it. Prakrityantaralat avaikaryam chit sattvenanu vartamanat. If you say that creatorship exists in God, that would imply that God is not perfect, that he is changing. Simple argument, understand. If someone has to do something, there must be some limitation that impels him to do. God creates. Why should he? If he is absolutely perfect, he can stay perfect. He will not create all the problems of the world. We say, no, God is unchanged because all his creation is through his Maya Shakti. It's also known as Prakriti. Maya Shakti is magical power. When a magician creates many things, his creation is appreciated by only those who are under his magical spell. Even the magician himself can't look at his magical show because he knows he is simply creating it by magic. Therefore, simple point, between God and this world process, there is Maya Shakti. It is a Maya Shakti, that a magical power of God that enables God to create the world. Tat pratishtha grihapitvat. If you say that, then the world will be described as established in him, the Upanishad says the entire world is rooted in God. But when we said that Maya has created the world, you will argue that the world is rooted in Maya or in Prakriti. The scripture is not giving you the right truth. And the sutra is giving you an explanation. If someone is in a room, seated on a chair, and suddenly you want to explain where the person is, you simply say the person is in the room. At next thought, and go to details, yes, he is in the room in a chair. So, the entire world is in Brahman. With other thoughts, as long as you are in a state of illusion, you are seated on the Maya that is supported by Brahman. Simple points. In brief, when we talk about Maya between God and the world, Maya is not creating any complexity. Maya is not counted as a separate entity. Mitopekshana. Prakriti and Brahman, with their mutual interdependence, become the cause of the world process. Now, the practical insight. All your evolution, spiritual progress leading to God realization, in every stage there is a blending of God and his Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti has two aspects, avidya and vidya. Avidya leading you to delusion, vidya leading you to enlightenment. Therefore, there comes the need of spiritual instruction, satsanga, a guidance that can take you away from the erroneous movement, wrong movement, going from darkness to dark. Suppose you are in a forest in a dark night and suddenly you decide to get out of the forest. You have a certain choice you have to make. You have to determine which way you have to go. If you went to the west, it is all dark. If you went to the east, it is all dark. But one direction is leading you deep into forest. Another direction is leading you out of the forest. So that direction that leads you out of the world process is called vidya. That means you have started your steps, but you are not enlightened. You are not seeing the light yet. Yet at every step, you are moving out of the dark. It's a simile. Similes are limited. In a real movement, every step that you are moving in a positive way is changing your personality, is enriching your life. Nevertheless, technical term, you are still deluded. Chetyachitorna Tritiyam. There is no third entity, God and the soul. The third entity that was Maya Shakti is God Himself, like a magician and his magical power. Yuktau cha samparayat. Soul is dependent on Prakriti from beginningless time. The point again, everyone asks the question, when did God create? When did He direct His Prakriti, His Maya Shakti, to go after the souls? That question has no validity. The answer is given beginningless. So the very time concept is illusory. Suppose you are experiencing a dream, and in your dream there comes a philosophical discussion. And someone asks, when did this world come? Even though from waking point of view, you have gone into the dream state just 5 minutes, within 5. But while dreaming, your answer will be, you don't know. You have to ask my father, you have to ask grandfather, and there is no limit to it. It's beginning. 3 things are illusory. When you ask where, when, why, www. Your entire website is backed up by illusion. To say at what time was created, at which place is created, and for what reason why has been created. All contradictory. Therefore, now comes back to serious point. Tat parishuddhishcha gamya lokavallingebhya. As purity of bhakti advances, question is, how do we know that someone is progressing in bhakti, that I am progressing in bhakti? And Sage Shandilya gives a very simple answer. How do you know when a person is in worldly love? Worldly love can be all types. When mother loves a child, friend loves a friend, husband loves a wife, and so forth. How do you know? Does it show up? And there are important indications in the same way, just like worldly love has indication. There are indications of divine love. This is my main focus now at this Sutra 44. What are those indications? As you understand them, try to practice them. Bring in your life. Samman, Bahuman, Preeti, Virah, Itar Vichikitsa, Mahima Khyati, Tadarth Pranasthan Tadiyata, Sarva Tadbhava, Apratikulyadini, Chasmaranebhyo Bahulyat. Lots of things. Samman, literal meaning honor. That's one indication. God is viewed by you with a tremendous sense of honor. And it's dramatized in Arjuna's time. Whenever Krishna appeared for any reason, Arjuna would stand up no matter whatever he might be doing. Scriptures illustrate these in a not like a historical account, but to give you a symbolic, allegorical presentation of those great qualities. So Arjuna represents, and his story represents that special aspect. For aspirant, what does it mean? You develop a sense of reverence to satsanga, good association, reverence for spiritual teacher, reverence for all those who are expressing a life of dedication to God. Anyone who has taken up God as his main subject develop a sense of honor. And there are lots of things. If you don't see people around, then honor the sun, honor the ocean. And there are many. Honor the great scriptures. Bahuman. The first term honor was a general. Bahuman, great reverence. There was a great personality, Ikshvaku. His love for God had blossomed to such an extent that when he saw a peacock unfurling its wings, feathers, he would get into ecstasy. Or a deer bouncing in the forest. Allow his mind to enter into the beauty of God. In modern times, all sages and saints have similar. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to have a kind of ecstasy whenever he saw any particular situation. The world is expression of God. There isn't an object which is not indwelt by God. And as your mind turns towards God realization, the world begins to reveal the majesty of God in so many ways. Your life becomes a constant reverence. You have reverence even for a little flower. Even the grass under your feet are as great as you. Your reverence for all. Next quality, loving delight, priti, that was expressed by Vidura in Mahabharata. The story is Krishna goes to deal with Kauravas as an ambassador for the Pandavas so that their war can be averted. All that details you may read later. But Krishna, having gone into the palatial buildings, he was invited by Duryodhana. Duryodhana had planned to give him wonderful feast. But Krishna turned away from Duryodhana and goes to Vidura. And he had very ordinary food to give. Sag Vidur ghar khayo. Duryodhan ke meva tyago. Duryodhan were given all types of wonderful, delicious things. He abandoned. But he goes into Vidura's home and eats just spinach. That's called Preeti. Vidura had that love. And God is hungry for love. If he doesn't get it, he's get thirsty. Now, another great expression comes from gopis. Read the story of Krishna where cowherd ladies, they are described as the ideal devotees. But this is an allegorical language. All souls that have developed devotion, they are gopis. Gopis for whom God is the beloved. But coming to Bhagavad Puran, where the gopis, whenever Krishna moved away from them, they experienced intense pangs of suffering, pain of separation. Here again, you have to understand what we are leading you to understand that if you are moving on the spiritual path and suddenly for some reason you delay or you become little dull, lazy, you begin to miss your sadhana. And that's a little of that glimpse of separation, the pangs of separation. I'm just moving a little at tangent. There is an actual story of Mahatma Gandhi, who always practiced prayer at a certain time. One day he missed that. He came into a group of people, devotees, and he expressed great regret that he didn't offer the prayer. And one of his devotees tried to calm down Mahatma Gandhi. He said a story that there was a great saint, and that saint missed his prayer. He was lying on his bed and he was sleeping, and his sleep was more blissful for him than anything else at that time. And the prayer time was moving away. Suddenly, someone started knocking at his bed on the head side, and he opened his eyes. Whom does he see? A devil, two horns. It's easy to recognize. I was very surprised. First, he thought the devil has come to scold him or do something negative. But no, the honey was dripping from the devil's mouth. The devil said, "Oh, sage, it's time for prayer. Get up, get up, get up." Sage said, How is it? You are supposed to take people away from prayer, obstruct them. And now you are asking me to pray? He said, if I don't do that, you will repent. And God comes running to you when you repent. I don't like that. Try to understand the mystery of regretting, repenting, missing the fact that you didn't. That in itself shows that you are more embedded in prayer than you know. And that God recognizes it. Sometimes it accepts it. So don't start doing that. But that's what explains what we mean by viraha. It's not a psychological depression or distress, but it's something profound. You begin to feel that pinch of being separated from God. And when you feel that is very close to become united with God. Here again, when I said it's progressive, God is not just one entity. The movement to God has many stages. Next, aversion to all else. There was a great devotee, Upamanyu, who says to Indra, the Lord of heaven, gives him all types of heavenly enjoyments. But he says, I am the devotee of God. His Ishtadevata was Lord Shiva. If Lord Shiva makes me even a worm, I prefer to be a worm. But if you give me and make me the emperor of the whole universe, I don't like it. In other words, movement to God and feeling you are a God's slave You are handled by God. You are instrument of God. That implies much more than all the pleasures that you can get in you. That's what we mean, aversion. Aversion to all else. All else relate to the world of bhoga, enjoyments. Next point is Mahima Khyati, glorification of God. Sages like Vyasa, Narada, Bhishma, they always enjoyed, whenever their opportunity came, they gave flurry of talks describing the glory of God. Again, what it means to every aspirant, don't lose an opportunity. Someone wants to hear about spiritual matters. Someone is ready to be encouraged on the path of devotion or on the path of meditation or on the path of good deeds. And you begin to encourage the person. You should have lots of vocabulary and lots of words. You should be eloquent, feel inspired. When a person is very angry, he doesn't look into the dictionary. What should I say? Much in the same way, when you are very happy and joyous, you communicate with others with flurry of words. That's what called Mahima. All these different indications are for anyone. You don't have to choose one of them. Anyone who wants to be a devotee should learn these art or should try to develop in his day-to-day life. Tadarth Pranasthan. Then other stories of great personalities who lived, who maintained their life for the sake of doing God's job, God's mission. Lord Hanuman is illustration of that, who lived in the world to promote devotion to God. And that was according to the will of Lord Ram. But in a very simple way, try to understand that as you move towards God, you become an instrument in His hand and you live to radiate God's presence in you through your actions, through your thoughts, through your words. You become like a blossoming flower, wafting the fragrance. The next indication, Tadiyata. All things belong to God. That's implied in the word we said, Nama. Namama, nothing is mine. All things belong to God. This is not, in the beginning you use as an attitude. You go on reminding yourself. But in actual state of enlightenment, this is the reality. All things, nothing belongs to me. And all things are expressions of God's Maya. Nothing exists, nothing belongs to. The I am is not the body, not the mind. I am is Satchidanand, Brahman. But scriptures give the story of King Bali, who gave away all he had and finally surrendered his own body before God. Sarva Tadbhava, another indication, is found in Prahlad, great devotee. Prahlad saw God in everyone. And Hiranyakashipu, his father, asked, where is God? And Prahlad looked around and said, where is he not? At that time, perchance his eyes were directed to a pillar. Hiranyakashipu was a demon who said, oh, that's where God is hiding, in the pillar. So he touched the pillar, said, is he in here? I say, oh, yes. Oh, yeah. His implication was not that he was confined there, but he's everywhere, therefore he's also in there. And then Hiranyakashipu brings his mace and bangs upon that iron pillar, which breaks and cracks, and out of the crack comes a divine manifestation. All that story has highly allegorical meaning. But the idea is, no matter wherever you direct your attention, bring the hammer of wisdom, crack it. Out of every object, out of every name and form, there will spring up a vision that will devour all that is negative. That's beholding God in everywhere. Therefore, try to practice. Not just in friends, but even in inimical personalities, with God behind them. Don't tell them. Apratikulyadini, absence of opposition to God's will. As you advance, you become aware how things have to move. For example, Lord Jesus, he was aware of a divine plan where he was to be crucified. No one likes crucifixion. He would have run to a prayer room and prayed, oh God, don't do that to me. But once that insight has come, this is the plan of God, there's no opposition to God's will. It's illustrated in the Mahabharata. Krishna comes, Bhishma becomes very powerful, and Arjuna is in distress how to defeat Bhishma. And Bhishma goes on harassing Arjuna. If this confuses, you have to wait and study Mahabharata. Because this is a big drama. At that time, Arjuna backs off. His spirit of fighting, he begins to remember how he was a grandfather, how lovingly he had handled him. Seeing that he is moving away from his duty, Krishna himself, who had made a pledge not to use any weapon in the battle, but simply be a chariot driver, he breaks his own promise, lifts up a wheel of a chariot, which becomes in his hand like a whirling magical disc, and bounces, turns towards Bhishma as if to kill him. And Bhishma is thrilled. He says, oh God, you have given me such a great honor. Come, kill me. What could be greater privilege than this? But Krishna's intention was simply to inspire Arjuna to come back to his duty. And that's what happened. Arjuna came and stopped Krishna. Please, please, please. Remember your vow. Yeah, I will do this work. In life, there are situations when things come to you which are not according to your pleasure, according to your will. But you have to, if you are doing sadhana properly, you have the instinct to know that you are on the right course. All that you need to do is wait. And while waiting, don't build up a contradiction in your mind. Don't go on telling every moment, oh God, you have made me miserable. Then you are left waiting. Wait with faith. Each time the moon emerges out of a dark cloud, it shines brighter. Your mind should have that understanding that you have been led through a struggle and challenging situations. And challenging situations are not given to you for no reason. They're given to you as an opportunity for your soul to express its glory, its power to emerge like the moon. So these are the prominent characteristics of advancing devotion, blossoming feeling. And these are the petals of that big blossom. Om Shanti.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of spiritual growth. It's an honor to learn from the wisdom of Swami Jyotirmayananda. As we part for now, remember, the quest does not end. Take time to reflect on today's insights and integrate them into your life. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, stay present. The light within you is always shining.